Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, I'm John, this is Many a True Nerd, and welcome to a little extra episode of Fallout 4, just looking at the Wasteland Workshop. This isn't going to be like a mini-series or anything, this is a very small little bonus content pack. Like, I think it's like half the price that Automatron was, and going to be like significantly cheaper than what Far Harbor is going to be too. So, you know, it's just some little extra stuff. So, just in case you haven't been following this, this is the second little DLC pack that Bethesda have released for Fallout 4. Basically, it just adds a whole bunch of stuff to settlements. And as you can kind of see from what I've built here, just do a little intro, to be honest, a lot of stuff is lights. There's a lot of new lights, which I really quite like. So there's a whole bunch of new working street lights and much kind of brighter, just like little lights you can put around and stuff. Oil barrels, I really like the fact oil barrels have been added because they're really, really cool and really pretty. And little kind of spotlights. Oh, and lettering, neon lettering. So now everyone knows that this is John's house. Okay? Wait. Bacon's house. That's much, much better. Yes. Now everyone knows this house actually belongs to Bacon. The letters are really cool, by the way, because they do properly snap together if you all put them next to each other. They're just like normal lights. You just kind of need one of the little kind of power thingies nearby, and they'll work just like any other light will. But yeah, if you kind of put them together, you can kind of see there they actually kind of snap together, which is kind of cool because they look much better than they would do if they were all kind of separate. It's kind of really nice, actually. It's a lovely touch that they do all properly and really kind of like smoothly snap into each other. They look particularly nice in the dark, by the way, so I've just put a little welcome sign as you kind of enter Sanctuary. I think it's nice. Like, this is just an example of like a really small little thing that's presumably... Trash can bloody Carla. You see, Trash can Carla showed up because she knows she's welcome. When you kind of cross the bridge now, you know you're welcome. I think it's just a lovely little thing that you can add on. I think it's just a lovely, cool little touch. It's very, very nice indeed. So let's start with lights, as lights is one of my favourite little things that's been added in, and as a nice convenience, it does happen to be night right now. Oh, this makes night so much better. Like, I always used to, unless I was in survival, when, like, you know, you didn't have so much of a choice, you just had to deal with what you were given. In the kind of the normal modes, I always just kind of sleep through night, because I don't like night, because it's too dark, and I don't think the settlements look anywhere near as nice during the day. Oh, the new street lights are lovely. They're just gorgeous. What I particularly like is, they do actually require power to function. These guys do actually require, I think it's just one power. Yeah, they require an actual power to function, so you've got to kind of hook them into the grid. But I really like the fact that if you've got a kind of line of them, the wire spot on them is really high up, and they can all wire into each other. So, like, if you're just kind of going around, there's not wires hanging around. They're just kind of, like, at human level. The wires are all well above you. So, like, it doesn't create, like, messy wiring. The wiring quite nice and high up and out of the way, which I think is really, really cool. Plus, the amount of light they produce is really quite high. I've kind of gone for the really kind of old school style ones. I like them a bit better. That one's not quite straight. Hang on. There we are. I'm happier with that. Yeah, I like those quite a lot. There's also these slightly more unusual ones with the kind of the big loop at the top, which I'm not so fond of. And then there's just like the traditional ones which you find dotted around settlements that you've previously just broken down for scrap. You can actually build working ones of those now. Literally by coincidence, here's one sitting right here. So previously, yeah, these street lamps, when you found them in settlements, they were marked in yellow. So you just basically scrapped them for steel and rubber and whatnot. Now you can actually build working variants, which is really cool. So there's a couple of the more modern style kind of built. You can see there it's kind of a little bit more kind of round and futuring, kind of more like the sort of style you're familiar with for like pre-war tech that you stumble across in Fallout. But yeah, personally, I prefer these more kind of like boulevardy style ones. I think those are quite good. I think the wires, yeah, the wires are definitely a little bit lower on the modern style ones, which means there's more of a chance wires will kind of sag and get a bit in the way and be a bit aesthetically unpleasing. So yeah, I definitely prefer these massive ones. I think the requirements are the same for all of them, by the way. Yes, they are, and indeed, speaking of that, they're actually quite resource intensive. You do require 20 steel to build them. I also find it a bit odd that, like, this requires 20 steel, and then so does this, when, you know, there's some of them that are clearly bigger than others, but they require the same amount of steel to maybe... Yeah, 20 steel is a little bit on the intensive side, but then again, I guess steel is easily the most plentiful resource. Just scrapping cars all over the Commonwealth will give you hundreds and hundreds of steel, and huge amounts of scrap that you're generally ignoring contain steel if you do happen to be running short. You can tell what's new, by the way, because there's a little plus next to it, so you know it's been added by the DLC, so you can immediately tell kind of what's new versus what's not. As I say, if you kind of look through power lights, there's a huge amount of new stuff that's been added. Some kind of just kind of fun stuff that's more suitable for outside, if you kind of want to have like traffic lights or whatever. The new stuff seems to be really, really strong. Like, just looking at that, that makes a really good job lighting up this little first room. There's a lot of powerful lights going here. Very, very bright modern ones that look a lot more kind of, complete than they might have done before. So you can kind of put up bright lights there, and you really can just light up these places. You can make everything very, very bright if you want. If you're feeling a bit more fancy, there's a lot more cool, fancy new ones here. So the kind of old style, almost like wrought iron with light bulbs is present. If you fancy it for whatever reason, kind of a factory or utility style fluorescent light tubes are available now. So they're kind of cool. They're kind of, I actually quite like them. They make kind of like, they're not quite so intense. They make a quite nice warm yellowy light. So those are actually quite nice. I quite like them. There's also kind of modern track lights if you want directional lighting, which is quite cool. So yeah, you've kind of got those here, and you can kind of shine them on a particular direction if you were to wish to. So yeah, I kind of feel like those kind of work quite nice in a bathroom. Plus, I quite like just spinning them because it's quite a nice little light effect. But yeah, if you want to, you can kind of have those little kind of track lights there, which I think work quite nicely in a bathroom. Now, you probably saw outside a minute ago, there's some other lighting options that don't actually require power if you don't want to waste your resources at all. So you've got oil barrels here, fire barrels officially. There's a lot of new stuff in here, actually. So you can have, like, a nice little campfire if you just feel like having just a campfire dotted around. 5 wood and 1 oil. That's a kind of a very small little localized bit of lighting if you want one of those. The fire barrel itself, yes, 7 wood, 1 steel, 1 oil. Very, very easy to make. So I can see myself kind of just putting these everywhere, because they're just a nice little thing to just have around just for a little light source dotted around a settlement. Even if you don't want to spend like copper and power and generators and whatnot building a full set of streetlights, I think the fire barrels are actually quite a nice little thing there. If you want some more little small localized options, you can build like a little individual oil lamp. Just for, yeah, 1 oil, 1 glass, 2 steels. That's incredibly easy to build. So it's just kind of like a very small little localized bit of lighting there. I quite like that one, actually. You just kind of like put that just in a little corner, just so you've got like a spot of light. It's quite nice and warm. Now, this one's quite interesting. In Decorations Miscellaneous, there's a thing called an oil lamp post. This is effectively an old style kind of, if you like, British style little street light. Except, of course, it doesn't require any power whatsoever. But if you just kind of put it down, I think they're really nice. I can see myself actually using these a lot in my settlements. If you just kind of pop them round, kind of, you know, you can be fairly liberal putting them down because they're really, like, low intensity on your resources. So you can just kind of just pop a few there. They're kind of Christmassy as well, actually. So for some reason, I think they're kind of nice and Christmassy. So yeah, just kind of pop a few of these around. You can kind of just make them really, really easily. I really like these. I think these are super cute. So I could definitely kind of see myself, like, if you want to have some, like, street lighting in your... Oh, aren't they pretty? They're really, really pretty. So if you kind of want some street lighting, but you don't want to be wasting resources, because especially if you're gun crafting, especially into the early and even into the mid-game, like, some resources can be quite limited. So you sometimes don't want to waste resources building generators and big street lights like I've got at that far end. But these just make a really nice glow. They don't properly light up the houses, you'll notice. They just make a little glow. But I think they're really, really gorgeous. But I think actually, yeah, the fire barrels here do a better job actually lighting things up. So that's a really good stopgap if you just want like a little bit of prettiness in your town. But yeah, if you want your houses properly lit up, you will need to invest in generators, because these new street lights and these new massive bright lights, they make a big amount of light. They're really cool. Candles have now been added into the game. So you've got these little, the game calls it a wall sconce. I'm not familiar with the word sconce, but there we are. So if you want to just have like a little bit of, yeah, just some little kind of candles, candle gently burning away just for a little gentle glow in the corner, you can now do that, which is really, really cool. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the Decorations Miscellaneous, you can also just have some nice candles. If you just want to kind of put some candles down on the table, as far as I can tell, these have got no lifespan. They just burn forever, which is kind of cool. You can even, I really like this, you can put these on shelves, like the little really thin shelves. So yeah, you can just have some candles sitting on a shelf. If you just want a ridiculously easy way to light up an area, yeah, 1 oil, 2 cloth, on a little wooden shelf, I think is really, really cool. Just shuffle those back a little bit. So there. Yep, there we are, completely on the shelf. So yeah, little candles on a shelf and just a tiny little bit of really subtle lighting in this room. I really quite like that. I think that's kind of very, very cute. So yeah, no matter which way you want to go, if you kind of want to go for some really kind of natural lighting with actual candles and natural light, or if you kind of rather go for some, like, you know, some slightly more old world, but still very bright lights that you'll kind of need some power for. Or if you want to go for these really kind of bright neon lights, or just go for some kind of slightly softer lighting with the kind of the fluorescent tube that mysteriously doesn't seem that fluorescent. It's nowhere near white enough really to be a fluorescent tube, but what have you. or kind of, yeah, the really bright spotlights, or just go full on with these outdoor streetlights, because these things are bloody bright. Yeah, there's just a load of new lighting options. I think it's really, really cool. So, morning is here. Let's move on to kind of one of the biggest, most interesting little things. I'm sorry, I get really excited by the lights. I really like the lights. The lights are really, really cool. But let's head round to the front of Sanctuary and set up some new fun things. Let's set up the traps. So cages have their little section right on the end here. There's a whole bunch of new stuff in here. So the first thing you want to do if you want some nice gladiatorial fights in your settlement is you're going to be needing to build a cage. They're kind of divided into the scale of the thing you're going to be capturing. The way a cage basically works is you just need a bit of steel and a bit of copper and the bait to catch what you want to catch. They do actually require a little bit of power. A cat cage is bizarrely kind of... It's actually really, really hard to make a cat cage because it requires soft-shell mirelurk meat. And, like, if you actually go hunting for soft-shell mirelurk meat is way more common than soft-shell mirelurk meat. Bloody fussy cats, man. Like, I went hunting and I got, like, 60 mirelurk meats and 3 soft-shell mirelurk meats. It was ridiculous. Anyway, let's build ourselves a cat cage, shall we? So we've got ourselves a cat cage, which is, yep, so cages let you capture a variety of creatures and enemies. Cages only work when powered, fine. They have a chance to catch something while you sleep or while you are away from your settlement. You'll usually catch something within a week or less. Once you've caught something in your cage, you can release it whenever you want by cutting power to the cage. The cage will also open if it is damaged. Note that keeping captured creatures and enemies will increase the chance of your settlement being attacked. Some captured creatures are always tame. Some are hostile unless you have a beta wave emitter turned on when the creature is released. Captured raiders, gunners, and super mutants are always hostile. Oh, way to spoil it, game. Yes, you can also capture gunners and raiders and so forth. You just basically need to be picking the right bait. So a dog cage, you're going to be needing canned dog food. That now finally has a bloody point. If you want mole rats, you're going to be needing rad rats. This is also really interesting because it kind of tells you what creatures around the wasteland eat or desire. And if you want a mutant hound, you're going to be needing some Brahmin meat. Over in the medium cages, which obviously are a little bit more intensive to make, if you want to be capturing a feral ghoul, you're going to be needing mongrel dog meat. Gunners require, I like this one, if you want to capture a gunner, you put a little cage up with caps, guns and ammo written on the side, and you put 500 caps inside it, and that apparently captures a gunner, which is quite good. An insect cage, it says it catches an insect, but it doesn't tell you which one. So just put some mole rat meat inside and apparently you have a chance to catch an insect. Who knows what sort. Raiders require drugs. 6 jet will catch you a raider, which is quite funny. And a super mutant requires some Brahmin meat. So yeah, sure. Let's go and capture ourselves a super mutant. I see no reason why not. And finally, over in the large cage, I just had to go and scrap a bit more steel there very, very quickly. If you want to be catching your own Brahmin, which is quite cool, if you want a source of fertilizer, then some razor grain will capture that. Death claws can, of course, be captured, but that's going to require 4 lots of bear meat if you want to be capturing yourself a death claw. A mirelurk cage. You want to be catching yourself some mirelurks. That's a-okay. But you're going to be needing some mirelurk eggs to do that. Oh, no, don't leave the settlement. So yeah, you can have your own mirelurk cage as well. Rad scorpion needs stingwing. Radstag requires carrots, interestingly. Radstag, that's kind of interesting. I might just kind of leave a Radstag on, because that's basically just a free way to convert 4 carrots into 2 Radstag meat, which is worth having just, you know, for the Radstag meat, really. And if you want to be capturing yourself a bear, and that one is quite interesting, because, of course, a bear is therefore a free source of bear meat, then, yeah, if you want to be doing that, you're going to be needing some Radstag meats. That's fine. I've captured some Radstag meat, specially just for this occasion. I see no reason why we shouldn't kind of go and build ourselves a bear trap as well. Okay, so a super mutant can be caught in that little cage in the middle, but if you want to be capturing a bear, you're going to be needing one of these big boys. Blimey, that is quite large. Okay, guys, if anyone sees a super mutant or kind of bear coming into town, don't panic. I apparently want that to happen on this occasion. So, we've wired all of those into the grid. Now let's just skip forward until we've actually gone and caught something. Also, just for a quick interlude while I was just scavving, so apparently, though I didn't even bloody notice, at some point I got the alien event. So the alien has crash landed just to the east of Oberland Station, so that's nice. We've got ourselves a lovely little alien spaceship crash right here, isn't that lovely? And very unfortunately, that means that the aliens who have crash landed on Earth, and indeed we should kind of bear in mind this is probably the first human-alien contact in quite a while. The aliens have come to Earth, they've crash landed, they're alone, they're desperate, they're almost certainly trapped in this here cave, as this green blood would suggest. And the first person they're going to run into is Bacon. And the problem with Bacon is she's been putting quite a lot of thought into theoretical witty one-liners, which she cares about a lot more than intergalactic peace. In fact, there's an alien right there. Just kind of, yeah, sitting over there. Looks like he's only level 1, bless him. He's only level 1. He's desperate. He's definitely not here to make war. So I guess you could say he comes in peace, but he's leaving in pieces. And there we are, the alien is dead, we got ourselves a ton of alien blaster rounds, and the alien blaster pistol, which is, it's okay, it's not actually spectacular. Like, you know, if you happen to get the alien event pretty early on in the game, then yeah, it's not actually too bad, and the alien's very easy to kill, so there's a good chance, like, when you find it, it may well be one of the better energy weapons that you've got going on. So yeah, might be worthwhile, but honestly, quite possibly not. The kind of unfortunate thing about the alien blaster pistol is there's just really no way to kind of improve it much beyond it is. So like when you first find it, it might be useful, but it'll very quickly fall behind. Because yeah, you can increase its range, so it's quite an effective little kind of sniping pistol, which could be a niche it fills, because it's also allowed to take a short scope and a short night vision scope. So yeah, kind of mid-range sniping. But other than that, there's not really any way to get its power. In fact, there's literally no way to get its power up. You can put the sharpshooter's grip on it. You can give it the long barrel. You can change the magazine to be fusion cells. So when you run out of alien stuff, you can still kind of use it. But that is interestingly locked to Science 4. So really quite high up the tech tree. So like by the time you get to be able to do that, you'll have much better things you could slot fusion cells into. So I can't imagine anyone really doing that, to be honest. But yeah, just, it's probably an okay weapon if you happen to chance on it relatively early game. It'll get boring very quickly. Oh, here we go. 2 days later, and we appear to have ourselves a closed door on the Super Mutant pen. Beautiful. Suggests there is going to be a Super Mutant inside. Unfortunately, there's no way to tame a Super Mutant. Super Mutants together with Raiders and Gunners are one of the few things that you cannot in any way actually take care of. So, let us quickly, in that case, unpower this thing in order to let this Super Mutant out. And then we will, I guess, just have to deal with him. So we'll just store that cable there. There we are. That therefore opens up. And what have we caught? We have indeed caught ourselves a Super Mutant. So we've got a Super Mutant here now. Everyone turns on him straight away. That's fine. He is... Yeah, what level are you? You've still got a flipping flame. Why do you always get a flamer? Where does it come from? So it's a level 10 Super Mutant, relatively low level. He has actually got a gun. We'll just stab you. Beautiful. Crispy, crispy, tasty. So we'll just quickly drag him out of the cage to make sure that he's not in the way. And we'll probably just go and pop him in the river, which is also where we get our drinking water. This is probably a terrible idea, but I just kind of want him out of the way. So that there was indeed a hostile creature that we caught. I was kind of hoping it would be the cat pen that would go first. I would kind of want a pet cat for Sanctuary. That would be very, very cool indeed. Now, had we caught something that was an animal, like a mole rat or a rad scorpion or whatever, if we'd wanted it to be tamed, we'd have had to have built one of those beta wave emitters that were mentioned. Those live in cages, miscellaneous. This I don't entirely agree with, actually. So in order to actually basically have creatures that you capture become pets, if you like, then yeah, you need to have Animal Friend 1 and Wasteland Whisperer 1, meaning it's locked to characters who are Charisma 9. And I really think a very, very, very small number of characters are going to be Charisma 9, because, not to be harsh to Animal Friend and Wasteland Whisperer, but I don't think many people use them, because they're just not very good. The simple fact is they don't work on higher level enemies, and those are the enemies you actually want to be taming, and even against lower level enemies, they just don't activate a high enough percentage of the time to make it worth it. And Charisma in general is not worth having your special up at 9 for, because it's the easiest stat in the world, along with Strength, to actually boost using just kind of stuff that you're either wearing or consuming. You can, like, even if you've got, like, Charisma of 1, if you want to, just with the gear you're wearing, you can get that up 6 very, very easily, and up another 5 through drugs that you're taking. So you don't ever need Charisma to be 9. I think it's a mistake. to lock the beta wave emitter behind Wasteland Whisperer. I think it should also be available alternatively through science, because I think very, very few people are actually going to be able to build this, which is a shame, because it would be kind of cool if you could just have, you know, a pet rad scorpion or a pet bear wandering around, or indeed a pet deathclaw. A pet deathclaw in your settlements is the coolest thing in the world, but I think like a very, very tiny number of players will actually be allowed to have it, which is a shame. One relatively unsexy thing, but possibly the one that's actually kind of the most practically useful for many settlements, is some additions that have been added to resources. So in resource water, a new type of water pump has appeared, the powered water pump. Basically all this means is, like previously, if you wanted like a big water farm, it needed to be by a big body of water of some description. So, you know, Sanctuary, even just like a tiny little puddle like you've got in Starlight was fine to make a little water farm. But if you had a landlocked settlement, like say Hangman Alley, I think a lot of people use Hangman Alley because it's so convenient and central, like you were stuck with just a basic water pump, which produced very little actual water. But now we have got a powered water pump. So it's a little bit resource intensive, but not too bad. Requires 4 power to run, but basically just means you can pop this down anywhere, just on like any patch of dirt, same as a standard water pump, and it produces 10 water, as well as, I'm assuming, producing purified water that's going into the workstation, the same as a water purifier or an industrial water purifier did, though I haven't actually verified that myself. And while we're talking about things that are very, very nice for little landlocked settlements, again, could be very, very convenient for Hangman Alley. There's the garden plot. We saw this one in the trailer, of course. Basically, this just means, like, it's a thing you can put anywhere. 4 wood, 1 fertilizer, which is really cool. Because, you know, it's just like, you know, 4 bits of wood and some fertilizer spread down the middle. Just kind of pop that down absolutely anywhere. And obviously that can become a little garden plot that you can plant and grow anything in. So we can have a nice little cute corn plantation here. Like the bigger crops, it seems to fit like 4 of them each. So if you kind of just want like a little corn plantation or whatever, yeah, you can kind of fit 4 of the bigger crops in here. Now, the other really cool thing, I've actually had to jump universe for a second. Some of you may just recall that hat, of course. That's John. This is the original John who did my very first Fallout 4 playthrough. Some of you may also remember the location I picked for the molecular teleportation-y... I forget what this is called. Anyway, I need to jump back to this because there's one other really cool thing that's locked to Science 4, which John had and none of my other characters actually happened to. So you're all obviously familiar with Generator Small and Generator Medium and Generator Large, but there's a new big boy in town beyond the windmill as well, and that is the Fusion. The Fusion Generator. So you can see that that's going to be... Ooh, I'm going to need a little bit more copper to make that happen. Just a second. Let me just gather some. Okay, got some additional copper there. And you can see that this generator is really rather good. It produces 100. 100 power. Like, the large generator produces 10. The Fusion Generator produces 100. So it's a massive step up. And in terms of the actual number of, like, bits and pieces it takes to make... It isn't, like, that intensive, all things considered. If you consider, like, a generator windmill, it's, like, 15 steel, 4 copper, 10 aluminium. There's, like, you know, 25 aluminium, 20 copper. This is not stuff that's particularly hard to get hold of. This is actually not that hard to build. It's just a shame, well... I would personally would have locked it maybe to Science 3 rather than Science 4, but never mind. And probably you'll now immediately recognise it for what it actually is, which is it's the same sort of generator you see dotted all around the wasteland that you've been pulling fusion cores out of. Now, the nice thing is, unlike what we all kind of assumed when we saw the trailer, as far as I can tell, this thing does not consume fusion cores. There is clearly, like, the place where you've pulled fusion cores out of throughout the wasteland. It's right there. I built it and it already had a fusion core built in. If I turn it off, the fusion core remains in place. If I turn it back on again, the fusion core is just there still. So really this doesn't play by the same rules as all the other little fusion generators you run into. This comes with a free fusion core. You don't have to spend your fusion cores to power it, and you can never pull the fusion core out of this thing to power your own power armor. It's just kind of permanently sealed inside this thing. We go over to the settlement screen, we're suddenly up to power 136. Like, I can see why they added this. It's because, obviously, if you want to be powering, like, streetlights all around a very large settlement, you don't want to be having, like, a massive number of generators. If I, like, even these kind of number of generators that I needed to power the teleporter, this is messy, and I don't like it. And I'm also told that these sort of rumbling generators are bad for community happiness. I personally don't care too much about community happiness, but... you know, some people do. Now, I don't know for certain this is better for community happiness, but I will say if you stand close to it, it's very, very quiet next to kind of like the rumbling, grumbling generators over there. So I would guess that this is a quieter, better generator. Plus, of course, like, it's much more space efficient. If you wanted, like, to produce 100 power with normal generators, you'd need, like, probably, like, I think it's 20 of these things, which fills up a huge amount of space, because personally I find producing a large number of medium generators is much easier to do than producing like a slightly smaller number of large generators, because large generators are fairly resource intensive. But this thing's really good. This thing's a really efficient way of producing tons of power. So yeah, a really cool addition, and one I've seen like people asking Bethesda for like pretty much since Fallout 4 came out. People were saying, why isn't there like a super mega nuclear generator so I can produce loads of power if I want to have a settlement that uses a lot of power? Well, now you can. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, there is still quite a lot to cover here, so I'm going to finish this off tomorrow. Coming up tomorrow, the rest of the stuff in the Wasteland Workshop. That is concrete buildings, animal head trophies, arena fights, and some really fun traps. So all of that coming up tomorrow, but in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I've been John, this has been Many a True Nerd, and this has been some of the cool new stuff of the Wasteland Workshop. Thank you very much, and goodbye. What the hell? Alright. We've now got a Scottish zombie travelling with us. Oh, he's actually quite good now. And he's got over his drinking problem. Which is... Oh, he eats human flesh. He's got some decent carrying capacity. Okay, fine, he eats people. But come on, let's not be flipping judgmental about this.